Apologies. There we go. That shot is live.
My little buddy.
I should probably have my thing now.
Oh no, I don't know. I'm not gonna mess with my Zoom because I don't know if I'm gonna get back to where it should be.
Do you think this is how Elon Musk and Richard Branson felt when they went to space?
It wasn't Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, no, he didn't go yet.
Bezos.
Bezos, that's what I meant.
Jeffrey Bezos.
The amount of equipment he has down here, Will, it feels like
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for tuning into the Will and Dave Show. We've got a somewhat special episode for you today with Tim and Dave on location on vacation. Quick little disclaimer as we get into the show tonight. A little content advisory. We will be talking about the Olympics and some of the things that have been going on there. Shouldn't be anything crazy. You will see two old men sitting close to a pool, so you should be warned about that. But we just wanted you to be aware before we get into the show.
Welcome to the Will and Dave Show.
So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming to the table. We have a different show tonight as Dave is still on vacation and he's visiting with number one fan Tim. So tonight we're going to talk about the Olympics, some of the stuff that's been going on there. We're also going to talk briefly on some money-related issues, mostly in terms of taxing the 1% and also people kind of making their mark on the world from nothing and how far hard work can take you. But before we do that, quick little word from our sponsor. Now, she's a longtime sponsor of the show. It's stitchedwithsusan.com. Now, rather than have a funny ad read for you guys, I want to talk about kind of the purpose behind Stitch with Susan is it's not just a way to sell quilts, which, yes, she does sell pre-made quilts, but it's also to help inspire other people who want to make quilts, whether that be through online teaching, whether that be through her live streams where you can interact with her and other quilters who are doing the same thing, or through the sales of patterns or similar systems like that, where she likes to inspire you to do the thing yourself and to really go for it and express yourself through quilting as opposed to just, buying a quilt from her, which you can still do. So yeah, a big thank you to our longtime sponsor, Stitch with Susan at www.stitchbysusan.com. Now, on to the show with our illustrious co-hosts, David and Tim, all the way in Shoe Swap?
The sunny, smoky shoe swap, by the way, there, Will. It's
Smoky Shoe Swap. Say that 5 times fast.
Oh, we have a few fires going on down here. It's been a little smoky and a little foggy, to say the least.
No, it rained a millimeter of rain today, and they canceled all the alerts. So apparently, a millimeter of rain takes all the fires away.
Bullet dodged, boys.
It's been ugly, not to say the least. It's not so sunny. It's not bad right now, though. It's kind of cleared off a little bit, but.
So William,
yes.
So I'm listening you do the voiceover ad for Stitched by Susan, and I'm listening to you, and I'm watching Mrs. Stitched by Susan up on the balcony, and every time you would say with Susan. Stitched with Susan, which you did about 18
Stitched
times.
by Susan.
Your mother would go into contortions up on the deck.
Listen, I am not a professional yet.
But you are, because you're on YouTube, so therefore you must be a professional.
I'm a professional when I get paid to do it.
Hey, I pay you in love, in hugs.
I'm a professional when I get paid to do it.
So we're in the shoe swap.
Sorry, Stitched by Susan.
She's upset. I don't even think she's listening. She has the sound off, but she'll hear the replay.
We'll edit it in post.
That's right, we will. So I am on holidays, and just as a little bit of a reminder, we were going to be live last week and the week before, except life happened.
Life.
And we went quadding, and we did other things, and we ate lots of food with the family, and we never went live for 2 weeks. And I just want to say I felt really bad, as I was happy of our record that we were live every week since we started, and then we missed 2 in a row. But here we are.
Family and friends.
With your back.
Number one fan.
And you're back better than ever.
Well, I'm back. So this week, I don't know if you read the headline, William.
Which one?
Well, I made a headline for YouTube. I made our thumbnail. Did you see the thumbnail I made?
Oh, I did, yes.
Olympics and bikinis.
Oh.
And I figured
Woo-wee!
that Tim would have a good viewpoint on bikinis in the Olympics.
I mean, I think most of the cameras of the Olympics have a pretty good view these days.
Well,
Go ahead, Dave. You got something to say because I
I feel so awkward because we're deciding on the microphones tonight. And he said, I want to be Garth Brooks, but I don't have a cowboy hat, except I have the Garth Brooks microphone, and it just sounds really weird, and I feel weird.
and I was going to sing "I Have Friends in Low Places," but he's sitting right beside me. So, oh, Will's got a cowboy hat.
No.
Not quite.
Darn.
Oh, there we go.
It's close.
Milady.
Who's he talking to, you or me?
You.
Oh, okay. Oh, man, guys. So, yes. So we had a bit of a few weeks, and now we're back live. We're ready to rock and roll. And the first thing on the topic is the Olympics and some of the stories which have come out of the Olympics, which according to our headline, the first one should be bikini bottoms.
Or I mean, outfits in general for female athletes. I think it's a good way of putting it.
So there again, and I'm going to iterate here.
Yeah.
I believe it's freedom of choice again. I don't think that the Olympics has the right to mandate what the athletes have to wear. There's got to be a certain amount of safety equipment or whatever, but in volleyball there isn't much safety equipment. But if they want to wear boy shorts or they want to wear bikinis or whatever, I say it's the freedom of how they want to play.
So
As long as it's not giving them an unfair advantage, then go
Exactly.
to
I agree. I think the Olympics has maybe pushed the buttons a bit too far on that.
So in this
that
age
aspect.
of inclusion and everything is all PC and correct, in whose mind is it right that the IOC says you have to wear a bikini? Like if there's any arena that should be not allowed, it would be in this day and age.
No
town.
kidding.
You would think.
Yeah. No,
You would think.
I'm. It's horrible.
As every man in Arkansas and Idaho is pissed right off now because they have no bikinis to look at.
Yeah, it's a rough life.
But apparently the IOC wants Idaho and Arkansas to be looking at bikinis.
It's a really related to that. Actually, there was because of this whole incident, there's a subreddit for everything on Reddit. For those of you who don't know what Reddit is a website where you can
I don't
join
know what Reddit
forums.
is.
You're
So
old.
Reddit is a website where you have all these different forums called subreddits for people to chat, share images, videos, etc. about whatever subject, and it's really easy to make a subreddit about anything. Apparently, there was a subreddit that was dedicated purely to, whether through hacking or through just internet sleuthing, finding any, what's the word I'm looking for, explicit photographs or videos of female athletes. And because of this whole situation, it came to light that exists, and Reddit shot it down, and a lot of people are very pissed off about that. And then the rest of us are like, oh my gosh, you don't get to illegally look at nudes of women who didn't want them posted online. It's a rough life, I guess.
It's rough for
But
somebody.
this is just kind of not adding fuel to the fire, but kind of just another facet of why should anyone, IOC or people watching, have any say in what these women are wearing while they compete?
Agreed. Did you see what happened today as well about the was it the German horseman or the
coach. He got evicted for punching a horse?
slapping the horse?
For slapping the horse.
Dude, that's cool, sort of. Like, I mean, on the surface with no context.
So here we go. He gets punished for slapping a horse, so PETA's all over him. But the ladies are being told that they have to wear bikini bottoms. Like there seems to be a disconnect in my opinion.
He slapped a horse and got fired.
Yeah.
You used to call me a horse's ass and nothing ever happened to you.
I love you, Dave.
What is not right in this world? I am sure there is some discrimination going on here.
Like I've always said, I think we've gone through a black hole. We're in a different universe right now. So
We're in the wrong timeline.
There, I swore on the show for.
Oh, dang it. No, I don't get one.
yeah,
That's right.
there
So
goes.
Tim asked if there was any rules, and I said there are no rules. He said, so I can swear. I said, no, you can't swear.
But I never swear. You know that well,
Yeah, totally.
right? Wink, wink.
Sure.
So looking at the Olympics a little bit further, because we need to move on this. All we have is an hour and a little bit, or or 2 or 3. There also was another story early on of the lady, I forget, was she a gymnast who withdrew from one event for mental health reasons?
Oh, that was a U.S. Olympian.
Yes.
Simone Biles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simone Biles, isn't she a tennis player?
No.
She's a gymnast.
She's a gymnast.
Oh yeah. Right.
For mental health issues, and actually withdrew for out of the
From one event.
Yeah, and that was an interesting move, in my opinion. But at least it brings to light some of the issues that these athletes face. There's a lot of pressures against them, and I think it was a bold move, and I applaud her for doing so. I really do.
Same. That takes stones.
So
Yeah,
I
it
want to
does.
say something because
No, you're not allowed to say anything on this show. This is not David Talkie time.
at the risk of taking the opposite side, even though I agree with you both, which
I'm agreeing with Will more than you are. I'll tell
yeah,
you, you're the odd man out tonight.
I am.
Wrong timeline, man.
One of the things that I thought of when I watched that is it's a sport, so withdraw all you want, and nobody should care, as it's a game. So I don't have a problem. The issue that I have is what it says for younger people who look to her as a role model and they get in a rough spot in life and they just say, hey, I want to walk away and withdraw. And so I don't mind as a sport, as an activity, I don't mind as much, except I wonder about the precedent it sets.
I don't think it sets a precedent, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
it's a great move on her part. I think it shows that she's honest and true to herself and had to bring it to light.
Yeah, I think it does set a precedent. The precedent being know your limit.
Yeah.
Like she obviously knows her limit, and she made a judgment call.
So there was a story, I'm going to share a story that it sort of cast a little bit of light on this. In another instance in life where it was not okay. Many years ago, I was working for this jerk.
Really?
And I
asshole.
called in as we were having a family crisis.
It was a different day and age.
I was having a family crisis, and I said, I'm going to be late for work, about a half hour, an hour late. And my boss just flew off the handle, and he said, aren't you able to handle your crisis any better?
Who was that jerk?
You.
What?
Yeah, you know who the crisis was? Him.
Yeah, well,
What did I do?
You were surfing
Well,
your
did I do?
computer on dial-up internet when you were supposed to be working in your room when we were living at Shepherd's Inn.
oh yeah, I
And
remember
your
that
mom
very
and
well.
I, we called a family conference, and she said, you need to get a hold of Tim and say you need some time to sort this
straighten
out with
William
William.
out.
And I called up Tim, said, hey, we have a family crisis. And he said, yeah, I don't care. Handle your crisis.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Deal with it.
Exactly.
Yes. So while I agree with your with your idea that it's good to know your limits,
Okay, boomer.
in other situations,
My God.
in other situations, you cannot do that, as you need to push
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, but I think anyone who's competing at an Olympic level, I think we know that they are pushing harder than
Yes.
anyone else at what they're doing. And so for her to look at it and be like, this is too much, it must be too much.
Too much.
It has to be an astronomical amount of pressure in some form or fashion on her.
Yes, and I will say that a lot of the pressure was because of social media, and I think all of us,
I've been victimized of that. I'll tell you that.
or we agree that social media, it adds a lot of undue pressure on people.
Exactly.
Because a lot of it is people in their underwear sing back and say, you suck.
You can't see
Yeah.
that. I'm not okay.
No, you're not in your underwear.
I have my Borat underneath this. Well, I know that's a sight, but that's my Olympic moment right there.
Is there anything else we could talk about the Olympics, William, before we move on to
We could talk about some of the first transgender athletes to ever compete in the Olympics. Some
There
of the
was
first to win
an-
medals and some of the first to not.
There was an American on the soccer team, was there not?
No, Canadian soccer team.
No, was it
Canadian soccer team.
Canadian soccer team?
Canadian
She just
soccer
won a medal. She's
Gold.
the first transgender athlete to win a medal. Not only that, but a gold. And then there was the weightlifter that everyone was talking about going into the Olympics,
Yes.
who was competing for Britain, I think. I can't remember. She didn't even medal. She was one of the bottom. Like she did not do well.
What
At
is
all.
the medal standings right now? Because I know the U.S. was in the lead, but I think China perhaps took over today by one medal or whatever. So
Okay,
I have
actually, I have a
watched-
small Olympic story.
I have watched about this much of the Olympics.
about the same
I
amount
have watched
that I've
none.
watched hockey this year.
Neither of you are missing out.
What's your story?
So apparently, the Korean ping pong team filed an official complaint because the Chinese ping pong team were swearing so much during the matches that it was actively it was a distraction. Apparently they were just nonstop cursing out loud constantly.
That's why
throughout
I
the
never
match.
got any work done when I worked for you. You were
'Cause I
swearing
was-
at me too much.
And I was distracting you.
You should file an official complaint.
That was back in the day. That's when.
Where's your Susan? I'm going to file an official complaint. There's no statute of limitations on that.
Okay, boomer.
Oh my god. I wish I had a sound clip of Tim just saying "Okay, boomer." And so every time Dad says something vaguely old white manish, I can just hit a button. Okay,
Hey.
boomer.
Hey, that's racist.
That's okay.
Old white manish.
Yeah. Well,
I wasn't saying it in a derogatory sense. I was just describing you.
Oh my God.
thanks. Well,
I identify as Dutch.
Congratulations. It doesn't
can
mean
I
butt kiss.
can I quote the Austin Powers golfer? You crazy Dutch bastard.
Yes,
So
Shalty.
I feel so Garth Brooks like in this headset.
I do. I feel great.
I can't wait to go back to my little studio in the basement where it's just me and I can turn your camera off and your microphone off. Here, if I turn your microphone off, it turns me off as well, and that won't work. Because then we'll be left with Will and the yellow sweatshirt.
Nobody
Hey, it
wants
looks
that.
good tonight, though.
Hey,
Look at
I like my hoodie. Have you?
I
If
do
I
too.
showed you what it says,
No.
if you can read it.
No, we
Yeah,
can't
it's
read
fine.
it. It's white. What does
Oh,
it say?
Far West, isn't it?
No, it says emotionally exhausted.
Oh, well.
We have two people watching. One of them is your mother. The other one, would you please say hi in the comments? Just anything to distract us from the boomer comment, because we really need to get above that. Say hello in the comments, because
Is it Jerome?
I don't know who it is. I just wish they would distract us from all this.
Jakob?
No,
Juan?
he's asleep on the couch.
No, we're gonna give him.
Javier?
We're gonna give him some soda pop later on.
Oh, no, we're not giving him any more soda pop.
It was good.
No. Candy bar and soda pop.
You should be here. Well, it was a great time.
You don't want to know how much sugar I gave. Well, I actually didn't give him that much sugar, but more than
did.
you
I
usually
did.
give him. You
I
did.
did.
You say that so proud. You're so proud of that fact too.
It's Kyle Autry. He says hi. He's watching the show, William.
Hey,
hi,
we
Kyle.
We don't want to dox Mr. Brother Kyle. We don't want to dox him.
Oh.
But hello, Brother Kyle. Welcome to the show.
Yes. So moving on in the show, I wanted to talk a little bit because I'm sitting here with Tim the other day, and he has the TV on in the background as he's addicted to news porn and fire porn. And with all the fires around here, he cannot switch it off. Every time he turns around, he has to.
I will.
Has to
I'll admit I am addicted to the 24-hour news stations.
Yes.
And I switch between left wing, right wing, and every other wing that's out there, and I get all aspects.
Whoa.
All aspects.
Bipartisan news, that's illegal.
Yeah, I know.
And on the bottom, on the ticker, on the news, there's a headline that New Brunswick and whatever other one of the provinces, I can't remember which one, is looking at instituting a 32-hour work week.
Mm-hmm.
And it threw me for a loop as I'm looking at Tim's house, and he owns a Lamborghini, he has a Viper, he has a new Range Rover, which I'll show you pictures of a little bit later.
And he's very humble too.
He's
I
very
am.
humble.
I love Dave and you.
You would never earn those things if you work a 32-hour work week.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And so everybody looks at Tim and says, hey, why do you have the toys? And the reason that he has the toys is that he worked really hard. So I texted you and said, hey, is it okay if we talk about how if you work hard, you can have more? And you said, well, we can talk about if you work hard, you might be able to have more.
No, you just said it the way I said it. You said if you work hard, you will make more. Whereas I said if you work hard, you can make more, or you can make it.
You see, for me, the formula was pretty easy. Like,
Yeah.
and I learned that at a very early age, growing up in a Dutch household, I guess, and my dad came from very humble beginnings to come to Canada, and it was you work hard, you get ahead. So if you work 6 hours a day, you're not going to get as much
Yeah.
as if you work 12 hours a day or 14 hours a day or whatever. And I seen that, and I just figured that was the secret to success and to move forward. And I guess that motto is what I've always lived by to this day. And times have changed, but I just don't understand how a 32-hour work week can work into, and we've talked about this before, Will, about a living wage. And we've, you talk about, it's hard to make ends meet on minimum wage, because of housing, food, life in general.
Yeah.
So how on earth can you make a living wage by reducing your hours
Well,
and getting ahead?
I'm not sure what the whole context of changing to a 32-hour work week is, like all the ramifications that would come with it. Like, is it actually going to mean that people can only work that many hours per week? Because nobody who works a 40-hour work week, at least in this town, actually only works a 40-hour work week. That's just the amount you work before you get overtime, as a general rule. And is that the primary impetus of the change, to reduce the threshold for overtime, maybe?
Well, I sent Dave, I don't know if I sent it to you, and I was hoping that Dave was going to forward it on to you. There was an article in Global News this afternoon, and I sent it out. And they've done studies in Europe, and they've done it in Denmark and in Sweden, and they're saying in Finland that a 32-hour work week makes you more productive. But right now in the shoe swap, and I'm going to use this little area, or this umbrella of where we're living at, there's actually restaurants, small businesses, corner stores, you name what it is, are actually closing the doors early, or actually being closed a few days a week because they can't find the help to work. So now we're going to mandate that you're going to have a 32-hour work week, which means we have to hire more people in order to bridge that gap, which we can't find anyway.
Right.
So we're in a labor crisis here, that we can't find enough people that want to work. And I'll tell you one more story here, a little quick one as a little caveat. We were over the long weekend. My son-in-law and us we're doing some expansion and doing some new ideas on how to expand our horizons and do some storage facilities. And we were trying to find a crew of about 6 people to assist us in putting up a coverall structure. And then it's a fairly large one. It's a 40 by 100. And we, excluding my son-in-law and one of the husbands of a girl that works at my son-in-law's business, the average age of the other 4 people were 62 years old. 62 as an average age. I felt like a steel worker. I'm up on scaffolding. I'm up on Zoom booms and everything else. We were asking people to come to work for us, and young strapping lads. And we would say we would pay you good money, and we're not paying minimum wage. We're paying damn near double minimum wage in British Columbia. And we couldn't find anybody. No one. And we ended up having to work with a bunch of old farts, to be honest, to get it done. We did.
Where the average age was 62.
Where the average age was 62, Dave. Yeah. It was horrible.
So here's my question on the shortened work week. So in this day and age where everybody is mad at Jeff Bezos and all these rich people who do all these wild and crazy things and go out in space and come back, and they waste $1 billion here and $1 billion there. And they look at that and they say, that's not fair. You have it all and we don't have anything. And this is in the news a lot. It's all over Twitter. I went and I looked for it. It's actually all over. It gets social media. That's not fair. You have more, we have less. And then I look at this movement towards higher minimum wage, lower hours per week for mandated work week.
That's mandated is the
right.
important
So
word there.
So in reality, all it's going to do is increase overtime. Is everybody's going to need to work a 40-hour work week anyway, so they're going to get an extra 8 hours of overtime.
Yeah.
So in essence, it just is a mandated for more overtime, which means it's a higher minimum wage.
Well, mandate for more overtime, mandate to make it easier to qualify for any benefits that require you to be a full-time worker, stat time, like stat pay.
Right. So it
everything
just
like
But
that.
where the extra costs are going to come in, Dave, is as a
to
retailer,
the consumer.
it's the consumer. It's a vicious circle. You're going to be continuing to go around and around, because if I have to pay more in overtime or whatever, those costs have to come from someplace else, and those costs are going to be at the end user again. Which again, we're beating the same dog to death over and over and over again, because we need to make more money, because now to buy a quart of milk it costs more, to buy a loaf of bread, whatever it is. So we're going to have to
to hang a tent.
Yeah, we need more money.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we're on a collision course here, and we're just buying time before. I don't know the answer, but I think something's going to erupt. I really do.
So here's how I came at it, Will. And this is where this began. This whole thought process is, hey, we want to lower the work week. We want people to have more time off, and this was how initially it began with Henry Ford was in that article.
Yeah, it was Henry Ford.
He mandated
a 40-hour
work week,
Yeah.
and he said everybody's more productive as they're home on weekends, they spend time with their family, and they come back. Henry Ford was happy as he had a larger workforce he could draw from, as he just added more people in that mix, and so it didn't cost him overtime, if there even was overtime then. It's a different story now, and we're looking at a minimum wage, at a minimum of $15 an hour or higher, all depending on your province or state. We're looking at higher cost on the business level, but it's not going to buy you anymore. It isn't going.
So my
As
question
the
is,
end costs are going to go up. So what I thought of is when I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about myself and Tim and a number of the people who live here in the Shuswap who have higher than average net worth. None of them worked a 40-hour work week. And for sure, none of them worked a 32-hour work week. So if you want to get ahead and you want to have the toys and you want to have the pool house and you want to have the things, so why are we legislating a 32-hour work week?
Again,
especially
I come
when
back
we don't
to
have the manpower to service that.
Right, and that's valid. I don't know what the employment situation is like in New Brunswick. I know that here, like the North Peace currently, it's actually kind of like a localized controversy because our unemployment is so low that Statistics Canada actually won't report it because they say that it risks affecting the confidentiality of the people who are still unemployed. That comment is a good one. We'll come back to that in a minute once I finish this bit. So I don't know what like in the Shuswap. Yes, there's definitely an employment crisis. There's employment crises all across the states. Here in this town, obviously there isn't. I don't know what it's like in New Brunswick, but the 32-hour work week is not like I come back to it's incentivizing earlier overtime. It's incentivizing earlier access to benefits, etc. I agree that I don't think anyone's going to get ahead of the norm. I think that's just making the base level supposed to be a little bit better.
Here's what I see, and this is from a guy who I don't hire a lot of people anymore. I don't hire anybody anymore. I kind of like that. My wife hires me. That's kind of cool. She pays me.
Poor woman.
Yeah. But
I feel sorry for her.
I do too.
when I was an employer, and you are an employer, Tim.
Indirectly, because my son-in-law and daughter are really
Right, because you work for your daughter and son-in-law.
Exactly, I
High
do.
five, man. that when you're business owners, if your costs go up, the cost of what you sell goes up. It just is.
That's inflation, and as Kyle just said there.
Yeah.
So if we do this, the cost of everything is going to go up, which means the entry-level worker is going to need a higher minimum wage, which
We're back to square one again.
we're back to.
So tell me then,
But-
how are they doing
So-
it in Denmark and Switzerland and Sweden or Finland, where all this has been working?
I don't know. That is something that I've been meaning to look into more in depth, because as this talk of minimum wage increases and inflation gets more and more heated, like, we can say, yeah, let's not raise the minimum wage or not reduce hours and access to overtime, et cetera, but inflation is still chugging along, like, regardless. The rate of inflation is not even remotely close to the rate of wage increase over the past decades.
And I think it's
So
only going to get worse, this inflation, in the next
Yeah.
few months.
Something has to be done. We can't just leave people in the dirt.
Right.
Like, we have to do something, and even a half-baked solution like earlier overtime or an increased minimum wage is better than nothing. Like, I'm happy to entertain alternative ideas to combat inflation. I just haven't heard any other really significant proposals put forward yet. That being said, I haven't looked super deep into it yet either. This is still like a new topic for me to be delving into.
Well, it is a new topic no matter what. Like, it's something that they're just starting to have conversations about. But
So where does this work into? You mentioned it here this morning, and it made me think about this. The UBI, as the UBI is coming, Universal Basic Income is coming, especially in Canada. It's been talked about. Several
They
provinces.
tried to test it in Ontario, and then Mr. Ford got into office and he kiboshed the tests that were happening, which was kind of a bummer, because there were small scale tests, which I would have loved to have seen the results from.
Like, it's looking at the federal level. It was experimented with the CERB, and
they've extended the CERB now in
and there
Canada.
are talks about it.
Yeah.
So if we lower the work week, so it's more overtime, and we add the CERB, what's the incentive for people to do more, to work harder?
I think. Okay, so I'm not sure what necessarily the incentive is for everyone else. I know for me, if I had access to equivalent money for less hours per week, that would give me more time to do what I want to do. In this case, if I want to start up a secondary business, a la podcast, I have more time that I can sink into that. Or if I have something else that I want to get into, like in my case, blacksmithing, I could be channeling more of my time and effort into that, which for me are potential money-making propositions, but also there's things that I'm interested in doing. I can't say that's going to apply to everyone. Maybe some people are just like, cool, I can eat the same number of potato chips, but watch more television now.
But who's going to pay for the CERB and the UBI?
So in Canada, I'm not sure how they're going to make it work. In the
I
United
don't think we have the
States,
population for it,
I don't know.
for one.
The research that I did into it when we did an episode on UBI a while back was centered on doing it in the United States. In the United States, it's almost an easier proposition, at least from my knowledge, just because of the amount of, what's the word? It's not welfare. The United States doesn't actually have anything called welfare, but all the different welfare systems that are in place in the States, because a UBI would effectively be taking over the job of all of those, of all the unemployment insurance, those benefits and everything like that. All the money that went into that would go into UBI instead. So just rolling over the money from quote unquote welfare in the States would approximately pay for 60% of UBI for every soul in the United States. That's not counting
the working classes. Who's going to pay for it?
And I just seen that, and I'll be honest with you, I am vehemently against the UBI, and I am dead against the CERB, because I go back to the son-in-law and daughter who have their business and trying to put up those coverall buildings. Yeah. You can't find anybody. No one wants to work because it's easy to sit at home in the basement, play your Nintendo game or whatever,
It's PlayStation now.
Okay, whatever.
They all count. They're all still a thing.
But
Okay.
we can't find anybody. Literally, it is we have a labor crisis right now, and it's only accentuating it by giving that
Yep.
particular working group. We're breeding
So-
a very lazy
I-
generation, in my opinion.
I want to put a pin in that because I don't have a really solid response because, for all intents and purposes, yes, you're right. I want to put a pin in that because it's something that I want to talk about in a future episode, which is especially in regards to video games, but in all media right now, how well we got into it a little bit like over Dave's vacation. We met with his brother and we were having a talk over a campfire. We're talking about social media and how it uses your information to consistently feed you new content to keep you interested, keep you watching, keep you reading, keep you clicking, et cetera, et cetera. And video games, almost more so than social media, are guilty of making a pervasive attempt to hold your attention for as long as humanly possible. They actively prey upon your brain chemistry to make you do that as much as humanly possible. And so that's something I want to cover in a future topic, is just talking about how intentional it is for media companies to produce media to suck people into watching it for obscene amounts of time, or playing it or engaging with it for obscene amounts of time. And I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon without people putting in active effort to break that cycle.
Go right back to what we
But
said at the beginning of the show there, Will, is that back in, I'll go, hey, boomer again. It was just
back in my day.
Well, and I agree with that. Like, I know I'm getting older, or whatever, but it was a very simple formula. You had to work to put bread on the table, and I don't think that
Yeah.
formula has changed all that much.
Oh, I think
really,
it has.
You really do?
Not in the sense that you could put bread on the table without working, but in the sense that the amount of work required to put any extra bread on the table has increased astronomically in the
We
last
talked
30 to
about
40
that.
years.
True. And
The effort required for the gain received is so much greater.
So then why are we telling everybody that we're not going to work anymore? We're just going to go to a 32-hour work week, and I'll have CERB to supplement what I can't make.
If you went to if UBI was a thing, then your work week would be adjusted as well. Not in the sense that your hours worked, but your wages would be adjusted. You'd be getting paid a fraction of what you normally get paid. The CERB would be taking up a good chunk of what would have normally been your wage.
But I'll tell
But
you,
that's a whole.
I'll guarantee you're going to see that loaf of bread and that quart of milk go up in price to pay for that CERB. It's going to end up
Probably,
it's going to end up at the end user. It always does.
The price of that's going to go up anyways, whether we change it or not.
Well,
It's not an easy answer, and for us
Yeah.
here as armchair quarterbacks, or in this case, armchair economics, we have
Economists.
these ideas from the working class, and we say, okay, I look at it, and Tim looks at it. If you want a Lamborghini, Will,
Yeah.
you're not going to get a Lamborghini if you say I'm going to work a 32-hour work week, and then I'm going to get my CERB. You will never get a Lamborghini.
Yeah,
How you get a
absolutely.
Lamborghini is you go to work at 5 o'clock, and you work till 8 o'clock at night, and then you go home and you do your books.
Absolutely. But what we want is for me to be able to go work my 32 or 40-hour work week competently and have enough money to put a roof over my head and food on the table for myself and potentially a small family is the idea. And currently that barely works.
So I do think, though, and this is getting again to the employer aspect, is that if you go and you want to work at McDonald's, and you say I want to be able to make a living, I want to care for my family, and I want to own a house, you shouldn't be doing that on McDonald's wages. You should not.
I mean,
'cause that's an
ideally.
entry-level job.
let me just iterate here that, just so you know, and I said it to my wife this morning, is that when we first started our business, we worked a lot of hours. We really did. We're raising a family. We're doing whatever. My wife would do books on the kitchen table at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Guess what my wife was doing last night? She was working in the office till 3 o'clock in the morning doing books. We still
So wait,
do it.
I want to scroll back a second in the conversation to Dave's comment about if you're working at if you want to start a family and get a house and all these things, why are you working at McDonald's? So are people who work at McDonald's just not good enough for a family or a house?
Yes,
No.
they are. They're
No, it's an entry-level job.
Right.
It's a
It's a stepping
part-time
stone.
job. It's for its whole design is for kids who come out of school who learn how to have a job. It should be McDonald's.
Right.
Well, I don't think you can, and I think maybe you're just lumping that under one umbrella. It's
Well-
not just McDonald's. It could be a gas station. It could be whatever. So
Right, I'm using it as an example.
As an example, right?
Is that's an entry-level job. It's a kid out of high school. It is not a career. That if you work at a gas station and you pump gas and you say, I want to support my family and I want to buy a home, and what I want to do for that home is pump gas.
But the problem that we're running into is the number of jobs that exist in the modern world that are entry level jobs is
And you are correct
infinitely
with that.
greater. Like businesses are creating entry level jobs more than higher paid jobs because they
And
can
you
get
are-
the
but
same work.
but let
out of
me add a
people
caveat
cheaper.
to that too, Will. Okay, the boomer generation, and I'm going back to old boomers again here. We were the largest segment of the population in the working force. We're all at the point of retiring. So those higher level jobs are available. They truly are. So there, you talk at McDonald's or at the gas station that it's an entry level job,
Or
that-
Walmart.
or Walmart or wherever it is. That boomer that is now in his 60s wants to retire. They can move up into a higher paying job. That's how economics and that's how the flow of life and work should be
It's-
going.
That's how it's supposed to. Yes.
But there is so many jobs that are going to be available over the next few years with the boomer generation that is going to be retiring, and it's going to hit quickly. And there's going to be so many people that, and I go back, we had to, at the average age of 62, to put up a friggin' tent,
Yeah.
like a coverall building, because we couldn't find anybody as an entry-level job. These are an entry-level job. We wanted to train people to show them that there's more to this, that you can become the foreman, you can do that job, you can do whatever. We couldn't find anybody. No one wanted to work.
I have no pushback to that because that I agree with wholeheartedly in the sense that people, how to word it, I think there's a cultural shift that needs to happen to amplify how much we or how visible those jobs are. Not jobs like that you need a degree for, but just jobs that require you to show up a little bit earlier, work a little bit harder, show a little bit more
Exactly.
initiative.
Yes.
Or you use like Mike Rowe as an example with pushing people into trade skills. Trade skills are getting hammered right now because nobody's in them because
It's
everybody's
horrible.
getting a degree instead of getting a trade, and a trade is just as valuable. And
Well,
that's a
let me-
cultural
I would say
shift
it's
that
more
has to
valuable.
happen.
It's more valuable. Like I go back to even when I was in high school, we had trade. Like we went to, we had woodworking class, we had metalworking class, we had shop class, we had everything. We had home we had home economics. They've gotten rid of all that. For the last 30 years, our whole society, in my opinion, has been teaching our children
Yeah.
not the right trades.
See, here's a good comment from Kyle. And again, I think it's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You can feed yourself in 32 hours and pay rent, although I doubt you can expect ownership or perks. However, it might be a good lifestyle for people who want to sit on a couch and watch the Will and Dave show.
And that's fine. There's all different segments of the population, and I understand that completely.
But aren't the people who are laying on the couch and watching the Will and Dave show and not producing Will and Dave shows, those are the people who are saying, hey, how come a Jeff Bezos has so much money?
Okay. This is pivoting now. We're gonna make some interconnectivity things. Back to talking about how to pay for CERB and talking about Jeff Bezos's.
Yes.
I think we'd be less, not completely unupset, but less upset with Jeff Bezos's. Because I think you mentioned in the thumbnail taxing the 1%. Was that in the thumbnail?
I
Did we
think,
touch on
I
that?
think
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That's part of how you pay for CERB. Not taxing the 1% more. Just making sure that the 1% actually pay their taxes would be a good start.
So I don't have a problem with making the 1% pay their taxes, except for the fact that if you look at where the taxes are coming from now, 99% of the taxes in the U.S., or 93%, I can't remember the exact number, are paid by the top 1% of income owners. Yes. It's true. And the reason is there's more income at that level. So they pay
but
more
they're
tax.
not
So
paying it. They might be on paper being taxed for
No,
that much, but
no.
they have ways around it. I would have
I
to
will
look into
find it
that
for the
because
next
I
show.
call BS. Put a pin
I'll
in
call
that
it
one
to
for
the
next
next
show
show.
too.
I'll call it for the next show. I will. It's one of the caveats that nobody mentions when they say, "Hey, we need to tax the rich." Is the rich already are paying more taxes in terms of dollar amount. If you look at percentages of taxes which are paid, it comes from the top 1%. It's
I will have to see that to believe that.
okay,
Not that
I'll
I
bring
want
the
to call
stats
you a
next
liar.
week.
Yeah, we'll bring the stats next week.
So it's one of those, and we need to wrap this up, Will, but it's one of the things that as an armchair quarterback or armchair
Expert.
economic, that it's great to have conversations about.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to talk about in between those of us who think completely differently. And as per the motto of our show, you watchers, all one of you, need to go out and have a coffee with somebody who does not agree with you.
I think
And talk about
I
this.
agree with that. But get up and still shake hands and be friends.
Not with you.
No, well, that's different.
He's a prick.
I'll be your friend, Tim.
Thanks. No, and it's all about conversation and understanding. And I've always said it that I think in order to really understand,
You've always said it?
well, I have, but you have to walk in somebody's shoes that's been in business versus going to work for 32 hours a week or 40 hours a week. It's a different game altogether. Trust me.
Somebody asked
I've
us,
had many sleepless nights about, am I going to be able to pay my
Dave.
wages? Am I going to
be able to pay Dave.
Oh, exactly. Am I going to be able, which I really didn't want to, but I did.
Somebody asked me the other day, "Oh, I bet you if you are Trump that you sleep in until 10 o'clock in the morning."
Trump's up.
And I can almost promise you that he's up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. Never has. And he's still crazy, but he works hard. He works hard, Will. You can't take that away from Trump.
And
I might try to.
You won't.
It
You can't
is,
win.
yeah, and I'll agree
Yeah.
with you there. Like the early bird gets the worm. Here's something. I still get up at 3:30 in the morning. My son-in-law bought a snowplow company. I'm working for him at 3:30 in the morning. At my age, I'm still going out plowing snow for him in the wintertime. And that's what I do.
He loves his son-in-law.
I hadn't clued in.
But that's who I am. And I don't know anything else, I guess. You know what I mean? It's the way I've ran my life, my business. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. I'm happy at where I'm at in my life, and all that I can say is that the only way that I got to this point is by putting in exorbitant amounts of time and energy into. I was driven, I guess. I don't know what else I can say.
I don't know. William, have we kicked this horse to death?
I'd like
For
to
today,
kick
at
it some
least.
more, but
We put a pin in the one bit to carry on next
Yeah.
time once we have more fact checking under our belts.
Yes.
I think
There were
that'd be good.
two things, actually. Yeah, the one that I said, on the top 1% are paying 90% of the taxes. And what was the other one?
The other one was I want to bring up again with the video game industry kind of
Right.
specifically, but media consumption in general. How
I'd
the
like
media
to
is
hear
being
more on that. I
designed.
think that'd be a really interesting topic.
It's a wild ride. The deeper down that rabbit hole you go, the uglier it gets.
See, that scares me. And I look at
Just
my
wait till we talk
grandchildren.
about children watching YouTube.
Well, and that scares me right now. Like I've got 3 grandchildren, and there's a lot of content. And I gotta admit again, I go back to my son-in-law and daughter.
Yeah.
They have timeouts. They will not let them watch TV. They're kicked outside. They got to go play with the dog, do whatever they want. Like what we used to do is,
Yeah.
dig friggin' holes in the back 40. or
Here's a
whatever it
bubblegum
is.
wrapper. Have fun for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Boomer.
I remember, this is a true story. I used to have a little box of Legos, and it was a little box. I didn't have the big box that you kids had, Will. I had a little box of Lego. It would fit in a matchbox. And my brother, your Uncle Mallory, he gave me a piece of string and a shoebox. and I hooked the string over the handle of the boiler on our stove. We had a big water boiler. And I would stick the Legos in the box, and I would lift it up on the lid on the string. I'd unload it on top of the stove. It was off, obviously, and then I would lower it back down. And I played for hours with a box, some string, and a little box of Legos. You don't have to have video games, and yet they sure are addicting and entertaining.
I mean, I'll give my personal example. I made wooden swords as a kid. Do you remember how many hours I spent over in the dining hall?
I do.
Just, I'd make wooden swords and go smack imaginary bad guys with it.
Yeah.
I could amuse myself for days.
We're working on that coverall building, and us old people, we're sitting there, we're hand wrenching, and we're ratcheting bolts together and putting together. And the one guy goes, "God damn," he says, that reminds me of when I was a kid when we had to play with the old mechano sets. And I don't know if that remember, you used to these mechano sets, and they had the little nuts and bolts and little things you could build things with.
I remember those.
And that's what we were doing. And it felt like just a larger mechano set is what we were doing.
Speaking of mechano sets, go ahead, Will.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say Lincoln Logs.
Yeah, true.
If we want like an ageless toy of our youth, Lincoln Logs.
Yeah. So here's one. Speaking of mechano set, is I was looking for toys the other day, and I thought, hey, mechano set. It was cool. You had motors and things that you could put in mechano sets.
Exactly.
So I went to a toy store. And I looked for mechano sets. So every mechano now, it's still out there, except each one is it's a specific item. So you build a truck, you build a thing, and you only can build it once, as that is all the parts. If you take it apart, you don't have anything else. And so if you look at Lego, every kit is for a specific thing.
And you see, I don't like that because it takes the imagination away from these minds that you could build it. I was really good at building just square blocks from my Lego. That was awesome.
I mean, that's why we picked the Lego sets that we picked back in the day, were the ones that had the best, not the best set, but the best parts that I could build other things with.
Yeah.
But they're taking that all away now. That's
Those
a great
bastards.
comment that Kyle just put up.
I like it.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are listening and not watching, I'm going to read it out loud. I don't know if this is an accurate statement, but I think some of the most productive people in society are the most recent members, starting from very little, who can also pass on their ethics.
That's a very well put comment.
I couldn't agree more.
Maybe
I think it's
this
fantastic.
explains why my kids have not received my ethics. It might be because I didn't have any.
No, you did.
And I build their own.
No. Like, there's many a times, even when you were working with me, Dave, you were there until 10, 11, 12, midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, for crying out loud, doing what you had to do to get the job done. And I appreciate it. Like, we wouldn't have been where we are today if it wasn't for those types of ethics that you had. So, and you've passed that down into your family. You can see it.
There you go, Will. There is your nod for the day. I've passed that down to my family.
Oh, you have.
So on that note, William, would you have anything you'd like to pass on to our fine viewers?
I would. Everybody, stay safe. Don't die.